Hi, this is Kyle at Sam Houston, and today I'm going to be going over the Google Certified Educator Level 1 exam. And let's get right into it. So, this exam is the first half is going to be um, multiple choice or multiple choices. Unfortunately, I won't be able to help out much with that because, as far as I know, um, the questions are different for each person that takes the exam. However, the second half is the more practical part of it, where you're actually doing the um, the the activities with a temporary account provided by Google. And to start this account, you'll receive it in your main email. It's something that you log into, and you're going to want to log into it on an incognito window as it specifies. So to do that, you just go up to the upper right in the new incognito window, and then you go to sign in and everything. After that, you'll be ready to start the exam. So we're just going to jump right into the practical part and go over how the basics of how to do these. And the reason I picked these specifically is because they were um, what was on my exam. I don't know if it will be the same for you. It might have added something like Google Slides or something like that. But I did not have to do Google Slides, so I wouldn't really know what it's asking for there. So let's start with Gmail. Gmail is pretty simple. We have task and labels. These are the two main things it wants you to be able to do on the exam. So here I set up a temporary account just like what we would have on the exam. Um, so let's start with labels. Labels are super easy. Um, it's going to ask you to label an email. So to do that, and sometimes it may ask you to label multiple emails, just as a heads up. So to label, right click the email that you would want to label and label as. It won't give you a default label. As you can see, there's default labels here. It'll give you more of a personal one that's more fitting for a classroom. So something like student. So we'll create a new label called student. So you just type in student there, hit create new. You normally don't have to do anything with this part, just hit create. And then as you can see, the label for student pops up right there. Now, let's say this one is also a student. Now whenever you go to label as, student will automatically pop up there. So all you have to do is, if you want to label another email as a student, all you have to do is click the student one if you've already created it. Now let's say this one is from the staff. So all you would have to do is type in staff, create new, create, and there you go. It's super easy. Uh, the other part of Gmail are the tasks. So there's two ways to do task. First, there's the general one. In order to assign a general task, not assigned to any specific email, you go over to the right-hand side of the screen where it says task. You click on that. And as you can see, I created a temporary task there. Let me go and mark that as complete. So let's add a task. Let's just say book due, whatever. You can also edit the details to add a date or time for which it's due. So let's say next Monday. Hit OK. And that's the general premise of how you do a general one. If you mess up on the exam and you accidentally put the wrong date or something, if you mess up something entirely and you don't want the task anymore, all you have to do is mark it as complete and it'll go away. Because whenever I can assume that whenever they grade the exam, they log into your temporary email that you did all of this on, and they will look and see what is there and how accurate it is. So they're not going to go back and look at your previously completed task, I'm assuming. So you can just mark it as complete and start a new one if you really mess it up. So now on to the more personal tasks. task. You can assign tasks to certain emails. So this one, I sent myself an email saying sometime next Wednesday. So in order to assign a task to this, let's go up here and then add to task. And as you can see, you'll know you did it right if the subject of the email with little email icon pops up under this task. Now, it does say next Wednesday, so let's go to edit details and add a date and time. Let's make it next Wednesday, which happens to be Christmas, and hit OK. And that's it, really. As you can see the date, it's assigned to the email, and it's good to go. So that's really about it for Gmail, is the labels and the task. It's really, really simple. Gmail is probably one of the easiest ones, especially since we use it in our day-to-day lives. And just in case, in order to start something, in case if you need it, you just hit the start right there. That's all you have to do. Just in case if you need it. Alright, so we're done with Gmail. Let's go back here. So now we're going to go to Sheets. The only main things that can be a little daunting about the Sheets is finding the average and creating a chart. So let's go over to the sheet. Here you can see I already have multiple numbers set up, ready to be averaged. So what you do to average is you click on a cell, an empty cell, where you want the average to be. You go to this little function symbol, you click on it, click average, and then all you have to do is drag all the cells you want to average and hit enter, and it averages it. It's super simple, super easy. Now let's say it's not that simple. Let's say we have these numbers here, but then we also have a random set of numbers here. So how do we average multiple different columns without needing to punch in the average at each time? This is also pretty simple. So let's start by getting the average of this. We hit enter and we have the average. In order to spread this function over to the next one, all we have to do is grab the little square here in the bottom right corner. It'll form a cross on your mouse cursor and just drag it over. And see, we get the average for this column right here. So now the only other part of Sheets that can be a bit daunting is creating a chart. So in order to insert a chart, there's multiple different ways to do it. But the simplest way is to click this little chart right here where it says insert chart. So you can see the chart's kind of loading. So on my exam personally, it didn't have me do too much with the chart itself. Just kind of setting up a basic one is all it had me do. So let's just make a line chart. Let's make the data range. Oops. So this may happen a lot. If this goes away on the right hand side, all you have to do is double click on the chart that you have and it'll pop back up. So in order to select the data range that we have, we click select data range. Let's do C7 and D7, which are two averages. We hit OK. And as you can see, it's not much of a line chart because I'm only putting two numbers in there, but here, this might look better as a bar chart. See, and we can see the averages in the form of a bar chart. So that's the basic functions of Excel, or not Excel, Sheets that it's going to have you do. Other than that, the rest of Sheets is pretty simple. It shouldn't have you do much more. Like, these two are probably going to be the two most complicated things that you do on Sheets. The rest of it is pretty fairly straightforward and easy to navigate. Also, while we're on Sheets, The easiest way, or the way to share to colleagues and students, it's going to have you do this multiple times throughout the exam. And I'm probably only going to go over this once because it is the same on basically every single Google application. In order to share, you go up into the top right, hit share. If you don't have it named, it'll ask for a name. So then you hit save. And then here it'll have you share it with students. Of course, these students don't actually exist, but it's going to give you names of students to share them with. All you have to do is start typing in the student's name, and they'll pop up under the suggested. You just click on them, and you hit done, and it's as easy as that. Now, sometimes it will trick you up. It will ask you to share it for them to view. Make sure you pay very close attention to that. Make sure you read if they want the students to be able to view it or edit it. To change that, you go over here. It's on edit default, but you can change it to edit, can comment, and can view. You're only really going to be using the can edit and can view, so make sure you change that according to what the task is asking you to do. So that way, the students can't just come in and edit the whatever application you have. So that's how you share it on pretty much any Google um, application across the board. Like, just for example, right now I can go to Google Sheets, go to send up here in the top right, and then it's basically the same thing. Just start typing in the name, it'll pop up, then you hit send. Same thing with Google Docs, all of them. So that, I'm not going to go over it again probably, but that's how you do it generally across the board. Okay, so now let's move on to forms. It's going to have you create multiple forms and share them in multiple different ways. So let's go over that real quick. So it's going to ask you to put in a name for the form. That generally goes up there. And then it'll provide you with questions to put into the forms. And sometimes it'll provide multiple choice answers. Sometimes it'll ask you to do a long question or a short answer question. It just depends. But generally speaking, whenever you type in the question, Forms will auto detect what type of question it thinks it is. So if I put name 3 birds, right, it's going to default to short answer text. Let's say that's not what I wanted. It's asking for a paragraph. I can change it here. I can also change it to multiple choice or checkboxes and fill in the options here, like bird 1. And then all you have to do is click add option, and so on. And that's how you do it. And you can change it on this side if the forms auto detects it wrong. Most of the times it'll get it right though. And then sometimes you may need to add more questions. That's going to be over here on the right. And it'll default to whatever you had it before for the previous question. But whenever you type in a new question, it'll auto detect it again. So that's pretty straightforward. It doesn't really have you add any videos or images as far as I know. Just questions. And then it has you share these questions with your students. You can also view responses here if it asks for that. And so let's go to send for students. So we go over here to send. We type in the student's name, and then all we have to do is hit send. It's super easy, super straightforward. Sometimes it will ask it'll ask you to do some other things, like make it to where they can only add one set of answers. So in order to do that, we go to settings and we limit it to one response. That's how you make it to where the students can't fill out the forms multiple times because the test probably will ask for this on at least one of the forms. So just remember, go over here to the cogwheel for the settings and then limit to one response. And then you can also check if they want to edit it after submitting and stuff like that. But most of the time, that's about all they really have you do for the forms. They just have you do it multiple times for some reason. Okay, so now let's go on to the classroom. The classroom is one of the more complicated ones because it's something that we don't really use in our day-to-day lives right now as students. So let's take a look at it and see what we can learn. So I have creating a new classroom, opening existing classrooms, and commenting on classrooms. So in order to create a new classroom, it's just going to be up in the top right. Let's create a class. So let's just name it Math 1 Subject Math, whatever. Okay. And that's basically how you create a classroom. All you have to do is fill out the info that it tells you to fill out up in the top right. And easy peasy. Now, sometimes it will have you invite students to the classrooms. That is pretty simple as well. So all we have to do is punch in the class code and send it to whoever we are looking to invite. Another easy way is to go over to people, invite students, and we just type in their name there just like on previous forms. And they'll auto pop up and auto fill in, and you invite them there. It generally doesn't have you post classwork or anything like that in here. If it does, this is where you do it. You can create classwork here, quizzes, stuff like that. Again, I didn't have to do this, but just in case if you do, it's pretty simple. You just follow the directions of what type of assignment it's wanting you to do. Um, so let's go to commenting on a classroom. So all you have to do is hit share something with your class and type whatever you want. Sometimes it shouldn't, but it may have you attach something from Drive. In order to do that, you click on the Drive, and then you click on whatever it is it's wanting you to insert. You can also search up here. So like, let's say I wanted them to fill out that form that I just created. I click that, add, and then post. And then here, it shows my post with the forms, and it's as easy as that. Okay. Also, opening existing classroom is just as easy. All you have to do is go up here to the top left if you're already in a classroom, and click on whatever classroom it is you want to move over to. So that's how you do that. And no matter what classroom you make, it's still going to have the same layout with creating the classwork here, adding people here, and all that good stuff. So now let's go to Google Calendar. This is also one that can be pretty complicated because of how much detail they want you to go in on the calendar. So let's go and create a new calendar. Let's add, oops, sorry. Let's add a calendar, create new calendar. Let's just name it students, it's kind of whatever. Alright, so it says student successfully created. So let's go back out of settings. And here we can see our new calendar. So in order to make this simple, what I normally do is I uncheck everything but the students, just so I can see where it's at on where my tasks are for that specific one on this calendar. So let's go and create something here. So in order to create an event on the calendar, all you have to do is click in general wherever, whatever day and whatever time you want it to be. You can edit it more right here. So let's say let's need to return a book. Sometimes it'll ask you to add guest. All you have to do is type in the student's name right here, and it should auto pop up and autofill. Make sure down here it's assigned to whatever calendar that it's asking you to assign it to. This is a big part of it that you can't mess up. So down here at the bottom, just select whatever calendar. And then here you can change the dates. Let's say I have a meeting with a parent. So I just punch in meeting. Let's say the meeting is for 45 minutes and it starts at noon. So that means it would go to 12:45 p.m. And as you can see, it auto adjusts for the time. Sometimes it'll have you add a description. It shouldn't ever have you add a location. So let's go to more options, and sometimes it may ask you to add a notification to let you know. I think it was like 45 minutes beforehand and then 15 minutes beforehand. So let's add a notification for 45 minutes beforehand, and then let's have it send us an email 10 minutes beforehand. So this is in general where you add notifications and notifications through email. Again, in case if you get stuck on this screen, you can add guests here and all of that good stuff. But that's basically the concepts of the calendar and how we create an event and how we create a new calendar. So now let's go to YouTube. YouTube is one of the easier ones. So it may ask you to find a video over the powerhouse of the cell. So all you have to do is generally search for it. It'll ask you to add, let's say, 2 videos to your playlist that have to do with the mitochondria.
Unlike
So you don't even have to watch the video. All you do is go here. Oh, hold on.
console, Stadia doesn't take up any space.
Sometimes you do have to make a different ad.
Mitochondria.
Okay. So here we go to save. I'm just going to save it to watch later. Normally, you'll have a playlist right here. It should already have a playlist created. And you just select it there. And sometimes it will have you share the video to your classroom. All you have to do is click on the share, hit copy, and then paste it to the classroom. So that's the basics of how to do that. In order to get to the videos that we've put into a playlist, let me grab a second one in case if it's asking for a second one. Let's just say okay, so let's save this one to watch later. And it should say over here, it should say saved. So now we go back to YouTube. And then generally your playlist will be over here. This account doesn't have a playlist on it, my apologies. So we're just going to pretend my watch later is a playlist. So I select this, and as you can see, it is private with my 2 videos in there. I can remove one if I need to, and all that stuff. And then you can also move it around and stuff like that, and share it with your classmates. But this is generally where you find it. It would just be under the playlist name instead of watch later. That's the only difference. Alright, so Now on to Google Docs. Google Docs is also extremely simple because it's something that we use, even if it's Microsoft Word, in our day-to-day lives. So sharing, again, this is just simple stuff. You share it up here. Let's just name it this. And then type in their names. And then it'll either say make it to where they can edit it or they can view it. Just select which one. And then hit done. But then sometimes it will give you an essay a student wrote and will ask you to add comments to it. In order to add comments to a doc, all you have to do is go off to the right around where you want to add the comment. So as you can see, this little pop-up is popping up while I'm dragging my mouse along here. You just click where you want to add the comment, and you just add a comment. And you comment it, and it'll pop up right here on the right-hand side. That's all you really have to do for Google Docs. It's pretty simple stuff. Although I will say sometimes it may ask you to insert a chart on Google Docs instead of Google Sheets. It's basically the same concept. Just insert chart and then whatever chart you want. Or if it had you create a chart on the Google Sheets and wants you to import it here, you just click from Sheets and then you click on the one with the chart that you created. Okay, and finally we have Google Drive. Google Drive is pretty simple. Google Drive, what it is it's the hub of all of this stuff, basically. That's where you can find your sheets, your forms, uh, your Google Docs, all that good stuff. So whenever you go onto Google Sheets, it'll already be loaded with a bunch of preset documents, and that does make it a little more confusing. So navigating it, all you really have to do is search up here whatever document it's asking you to find. So like, let's say I'm trying to find the sheet that I just pulled up. All I did was search the name of the sheet and it pulled up. It'll also have you navigate folders and stuff like that. The folders will be right here, and all you have to do is open it, and the documents will be in the folder. So that's pretty simple. And then sometimes it will have you share a document from Google Drive instead of opening the document. So in order to do that, we pull up, oh, my apologies. We click on the sheet. Sorry, I don't know why it's not opening here. Okay, so sometimes it'll have you open up the document like this and share it from here. As you can tell, we're still in Drive, we're not in Sheets. So in order to share it, we go up to the more actions here, generally where you would find the share button. We click on it and hit share. And then it pops up like normal, can edit, can view, all that stuff. You can also move it to different folders in Drive from here. You can also star it if you need to, rename it, anything really, besides editing the document itself. So that's the general about the exam, the practical part of the exam. This is something that I decided to make pretty short and pretty straightforward. I decided to take out most of the common sense stuff that we use in our day-to-day lives to hopefully make the video shorter. Ideally, if you're watching this video for the first time and you're not about to take the exam, try to watch this video right before you take the exam. It'll really help you, and all of it will be fresh off the top of your head. But this is, just the general overlay. Your exam may be different. I have no way of knowing what is on your exam. So I hope that all of this is useful to you and that you've used all of this. Um, Keep in mind that whenever you're taking the exam, you're at a time limit of 3 hours, and I believe it's 3 hours, might be 2.5, something like that. But it's a lot to get through in the time that you're provided. So really try to make sure that you watch this right before the exam and that you really try to get through it as quickly and efficiently as possible while also getting the correct answers. Um, but yeah, that's about it. Thank you for watching, and I really, really, really hope this helps you with your exam.